Hello, my name is Jeffrey Bowen. Welcome to the first video in a series where we explore the propositions of Euclid's Elements, Book 1. Through this series, I hope that we can come to a better understanding of the fundamentals of Euclidean geometry, its roots, and its promises. To begin, I'd like to start with a philosophical question. What is truth? Take a moment, ponder to yourself what you hold in this world to be true, and how you know it's true. Perhaps you'll come to the conclusion that truth is of value and its opposite is falsehood. For example, I could say it is raining outside. It holds one of either two values. It is either true or false. It is either raining outside or it is not. The idea of what is true and what is false is a philosophical dilemma. It's burdened mankind for millennia. Let's start looking back over the centuries and see what we find. In 1999, a film came out called The Matrix. Spoiler alert, the film was about a man who came to the understanding that the world in which he grew up and had always lived was in fact a lie. It was a computer simulation perpetuated by an artificial intelligence that wanted to keep mankind under its thumb. The premise that the reality we perceive isn't true isn't a new one. It may seem far-fetched, but is it really? Consider for a moment how you perceive the world around you, how I perceive the world around me. We experience the world through five senses: touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. Is it so profound to think that these senses could be fooled? Are we so arrogant to think that our perception of the world around us is the true perception? So, let's look back even further. 300 years ago, we find the same question being pondered again. In the 1600s, René Descartes tackled this great question. In his time, it wasn't killer robots or some sort of artificial intelligence that was generating a false reality. It was instead something they called the Great Deceiver. And thus we see this Great Deceiver was tackled from a religious point of view. So, the question about whether or not reality is real, it hits home for both the religious and the atheist at the same time. Neither one can rightly say whether or not what we see around us is true or not. Descartes was able to come to one important conclusion, depending on the leniency of definitions and the like, but you may have heard it before, something like it. Dubito, ergo cogito, ergo sum. Translated, in English, I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. It's a pronouncement to the world as he tried to prove his own existence in his own reality. At the very least, he concluded that he was something that could at least doubt and therefore think. Now, let's go back even further, 300 BC, 2,300 years ago, to a man named Euclid. I can't attest to whether or not Euclid himself questioned his reality or conjectured a great deceiver. However, I can state this. The suppositions that he made in his book Elements are systems of logic which, given those suppositions, which we'll call postulates, are true. So in a way, Euclid 2,300 years ago came to some conclusions about what truth was and what reality could be. The reason this work and others like it are so important is the following. Euclid assumes as little as possible and is able to make great conclusions given those assumptions. He sets up a system by which, through logic, he can state truths. Euclid's Elements doesn't care whether or not there is a great deceiver or a computer simulation dominating our reality. If you assume his base statements, what he calls postulates again, then the works inside this book will be true. I want to reiterate that one more time in a different way. In this book, Euclid has 5 postulates. A postulate can also be referred to as an axiom, and it can be thought of as a baseline fact, an assumption so basic that it is hard for anyone to doubt. As we go through this series, if you watch it all the way through, we'll spend a little bit of time discussing Euclid's 5th postulate. This 5th assumption he makes is different from the other 4, and we'll see what happens to Euclid's geometry when we ignore or change it. All we're saying as we reviewed this book is that if we assume that what Euclid says is true, then it follows that a number of other things are also held to be true. So, as we review Book 1 of the Elements, we will come to one very big, great truth, that truth being the Pythagorean theorem. In my mind, this is one of the most important mathematical formulas we have, as it's useful through geometry, trigonometry, calculus, and even abstract algebra. So, without further ado, let's get to it.